This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Collaborating for Access webinar. We're chugging along in this series, and it seems like we will never run out of things to talk about relative to electronic access. I am Jeremy Johannesson, the Executive Director with the Chief Officers of State Library Agencies, COSLA, and it has been my absolute pleasure to be partnering with the DPLA, the Digital Public Library of America, along with Kat and Micah and John, and along with our good friend, Michael from ReadersFirst. So here we are again. We have a jam-packed session this afternoon with a series of lightning round presentations. So I'm not going to talk anymore, but I'm going to throw the virtual mic over to you, Michael.
Thank you so very much. And we're going to head right into it. Please, if you have questions, put them in the question section or in the chat, and we will try to get to those at the end. Lots of interesting stuff today, so let's move right into it. And our first presenter is Lila Bailey. And let's find your brief bio here. Where did it go? Oh, drat. Lila, I'm sorry, I lost the bio, is the copyright and intellectual property expert with the Internet Archive, and she practices law in order to support clients who democratize access to information, community, and creativity by harnessing technology, helping institutions and innovators resolve unique challenges at the forefront of technology while advocating for end users. Lila, take it away.
For some reason, my screen share, which worked before, is not working now. Not sure why, but I can do this without slides. So let me just get out of this. Hi, everybody. I know we're tight for time, so I'm just going to do this without slides, no crutches, just you and me, everybody. Okay, so I just want to say thanks so much to ReadersFirst and DPLA and COSLA for inviting me here to talk about a really exciting project that I've been working on with the Movement for a Better Internet over the course of about the last year. So let me start a little bit with a little bit of background on that project. The Movement for a Better Internet is all about building an internet that is centered on public interest values. And my personal goal as part of that is to center library issues in the middle of all of that, because I believe that building a better internet means that libraries need to thrive and function as they always have, but even better online. So why do I say this? Okay, so libraries and the internet are both about access to information and culture, right, at the core. Both allow more diverse and robust participation in our democratic society. And more people trust libraries to give them access to reliable, trustworthy information than really any other institution, far more than the news media and certainly more than internet companies, right? And while libraries are a bit embattled and becoming more politicized recently, if we look at the recent round of book bannings, but nevertheless, libraries have a really high level of trust from society as a whole. The internet, however, is struggling on the trust front, which is why we thought that bringing together policy folks from the digital rights community and policy folks from the library community together in a conversation made sense as a starting point for our movement. To that end, we convened a series of workshops. I was going to show you a cute picture of everybody that came to our first workshop in person, which was held in Washington, D.C. Right before ALA last year. And the rest were a mix of virtual and in-person gatherings that went from June through October of last year. We started from a really broad range of issues that our library community raised up in their pre-workshop survey to say what they thought were the most pressing and challenging issues for us to discuss together. We talked about everything from misinformation to competition in vendors and publishing. We talked about reader privacy. We talked about digital ownership and controlled digital lending and access to digital materials. And what was really amazing actually was how much alignment we found in that group of people about what they really cared about, what we cared about as a community. So everyone agreed that mandatory filtering is a bad idea, especially when it comes to libraries. Everyone agreed that there are serious problems with consolidation in the publishing industry. Everyone agrees that we should be supporting and protecting a robust public domain. And I think potentially most importantly, we all agreed that libraries must continue to support equitable access to information and creative empowerment. So the result of this months-long consultation is a paper called Securing Digital Rights for Libraries. And I will drop a link in the chat when I'm done talking, so you can have a link to that. But the core observation of that paper, kind of the TLDR of all of it, grounded in the views of this particular community that came together, is that the rights that libraries have always enjoyed offline must be protected online. Seems really simple, but what do we mean? Okay, so libraries have existed for centuries. They existed before the printing press. They existed before copyright laws were ever written. And, you know, libraries have been adapting to new technologies from time immemorial. And as technologies have become more robust and reaching more people, so too have libraries. So the seismic shift that we're seeing, the sort of problem statement that rose up above all others as we walked through all of this, it's not inherent to this technological shift from analog to digital. We've seen these shifts before. No, the seismic shift is really in the business models of some like the major publishers, right? Not, I'm going to say hashtag not all publishers, but for the major publishers, they no longer sell anything in the digital world, right? They used to sell books, now they don't. They license ebooks instead. And what that means for libraries is we don't own and control our digital materials. And that raises all kinds of problems of libraries trying to perform our basic functions in society. So as a result of this development, the development in the business model, not in response to the technological shift, our community believes that it's time that the core functions of libraries be protected as affirmative rights. Okay, so how to define what those rights are, right? Defining rights is always pretty complicated. So what we ended up doing was working backwards from the core functions of libraries, the role in society that libraries have played for generations. And what are those fundamental rights? They are bound up with the core mission of preservation and access. So the first of those, and I'm going to read them because there was going to be a slide, but I'm just going to read them so you know what the paper says. Okay, so there are four fundamental rights. The first is to be able to collect digital materials, including those made available only through streaming or other restricted means, through purchase on the open market, or by any other legal means, no matter what the underlying file format is. The right to preserve those materials and where necessary to repair or reformat them to ensure their long-term existence and availability. To be able to lend digital materials, at least on the same one person at a time manner as is traditional with physical libraries. And finally, the right to cooperate with other libraries, right? That's what we're talking about here, is how libraries cooperate and collaborate. We think that those kinds of activities, things like interlibrary loan, development of consortia, shared repositories, that's something that needs to be protected as we move into a digital world. Okay, I'm winding down here. These are the rights that we as libraries have always had and that must be protected online. Because unfortunately, the shift in many publishers' business models these rights are threatened, and they're threatened largely through vendor and licensing contractual language. So we know there's still a lot of work to do to secure these digital rights for libraries, but I'm going to count it as a big win and a big success that our community came together to recognize and name these rights, because you can't fight for rights that you can't name. So I'm going to drop links to the paper and to the Movement for a Better Internet, and I am going to hand it off to the next speaker, and I'm excited to hear what you all have to say. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Lila. Not for the first time, I'm sure I'll be saying, boy, that's a whole lot in such a brief time. I've had a chance to look at this document. I encourage everybody to get, who's on the session today, to please look at that and consider getting involved with this initiative. We're going to move now to Brad Bullis. And Brad, thank you so much for being here. Brad is the Digital Content and Innovation Coordinator at the Connecticut State Library, Division of Library Development. He oversees ebooks, databases, and interlibrary loan programs, so just a little bit of work there. And he works with public libraries to deliver services to veterans and their families. Brad is himself a proud veteran and served in the Connecticut Air National Guard for 34 years. Brad, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. I don't have to do my introduction part, so I just want to tell everyone I'm very happy to be here today. And what I want to focus on today is a program that we have here in the state of Connecticut called All CT Reads. This is a program from the Connecticut State Library, and I want to talk a little bit about how the EgoCT program, which is our ebook platform, supports All CT Reads and harnesses this effort to increase usage of our collection and the Palace Project app. So first, I'll let you know kind of where we are in the process of rolling out our ebook program. So we have 191 public libraries in the state of Connecticut. Of those libraries, we have 166 that LYRASIS has configured, and they're essentially live in the app. But not all those libraries are participating. We have 110 of those libraries that are actively participating and sharing content with their patrons. So that's our measure for someone participating in our program. So 110 is pretty darn good, we think, but we want to get everybody to access the content that basically, the state is providing for them for free. So one of the ways we can do that is to have programs like this that bring attention to both the program itself and the EgoCT program. So just to take a look at sort of the growth, we started rolling out the Palace Project app in March. So you can see that over the year, once we got rolling, the growth was pretty steady and consistent. And we're up to 110 libraries, as I say right now, that we consider as actively participating in the program. So to understand the context of what I'm talking about, I'll just give you a quick overview of what the All CT Reads program is about. It's in its second year. And All CT Reads is basically a year-long statewide reading initiative, kind of like a big read for the state, to promote lifelong reading, learning, and community connection. So what we have is we have 12 titles. We have 4 for kids, 4 for teens, and 4 for adults. In addition to these books, All CT Reads provides basically programming materials and a structure that libraries can take advantage of if they want to run programs based around All CT Reads in their library. So really the program is adaptable. So any library can adapt it to their community and what their particular needs are. And then the EgoCT program provides easy access to the selected titles. So to highlight these titles within the Palace Project app, LYRASIS actually went in and this is something that has to be done individual for every single library, but they created a lane for All CT Reads 2023. They had done it for the previous year as well. And so this allows for very easy discovery of these titles. And so we look at that as being an opportunity, 1, for them to be available for folks, and 2, to increase the usage. Before this, to get the titles in, we actually worked with DPLA and Mikel in particular. Mikel basically worked with the publishers to get licensing that was a little bit more favorable than what we might get otherwise. He put a cart together for me. We reviewed it. I was able to just submit that cart and get it, basically put into the Palace app, and LYRASIS did the work after that to create the lane. So again, great partnership with LYRASIS and DPLA to support the programs that are important to Connecticut and the Connecticut State Library. So the thing I want to point out is in addition to All CT Reads, we have other initiatives or collections that we want to support. We'd like to support the summer reading program. We have Nutmeg Award winners in Connecticut that we like to highlight. There's a Kid Governor in Connecticut, which is a great program. And so we like to purchase the titles that are relevant to the civics kits that go along with that program, and then services to military veterans and families. So, when you look at that community, we like to be able to have a collection of resources that are easily accessible and that libraries can share with those folks within their community. So all of these initiatives can be highlighted within the within the app, and LyraSys is really helpful at doing these types of things at my request, and it really does help kind of publicize and show our collection, what we're providing to the state. And again, it's all for free, which is just a wonderful opportunity for libraries to take advantage of, especially those that don't have book budgets, ebook budgets that they can take advantage of. So in terms of the growth of the program, last year was our first year for All CT Reads. We had 262 checkouts. So not an overwhelming amount, but for, considering we started in April, I think, providing the titles, and it was the first year of the All CT Reads program, we were happy that there was participation and usage. But in January of 23, when we rolled out the new All CT Reads title for 2023, that was on January 12th that we had the kickoff. Since then, we've had 110 checkouts up through the end of the month. So you can see that there's a lot more usage going on already. So projected usage would be around 2,000 checkouts. And really, I anticipate that we would probably have, much more with that. And that's very exciting for us. So I just want to thank LyraSys and DPLA for being great partners. They've been part of the Ego CT program since day one. And so any success we have, I have to share with them. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Michael. Thank you.
Brad, thank you so much. That's a great example for people who are going to be deploying the app on a different way of getting some unique content in there. Thank you very much. We're going to move at this point to Maria Bustillos. Maria is the founding editor of Popula, which is an alternative news and culture magazine. She's a culture critic whose work has appeared in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Harper's, and The Guardian. She's helped to lead a bold experience on the edge of tech and media as the Pied Piper to a group of writers and editors trying to build publications on a platform powered by blockchain. And she's the author of Dorkismo, The Macho and the Dork. Maria, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I come at this group from a different angle. I'm not a librarian. I'm a writer, information activist, publisher. And when I first became aware of the attack on the Internet Archive as an independent publisher, I realized, because I view my participation in literary culture as much more than a commercial proposition. And so I realized that I could sell permanent copies of my own work to libraries for the same price that I would sell a paper copy of the book to that I published myself. And because I'm an independent, I can do that. I don't have, distribution deals and all the kinds of problems that bedevil ordinary conventional corporate publishers who even may want to participate more fully in library culture, but because we're independents, we're able to do that. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see if it works. Select window. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know. Whoa. Is this working? Okay, that's me. All right. Okay, so I'm an author. And if I have an independent publisher, I can use our new Brie marketplace to sell, we're developing this at the Brick House, to sell permanent copies of digital works to libraries. And we've started doing this with the Internet Archive with their help and support. And that way patrons can get our stuff. And so basically you've got like media going in one direction, and patrons could theoretically, contribute to the Internet Archive if they like what they're seeing there. I think the Internet Archive has done a great job of sort of monetizing, being able to fund their work through many different avenues. And, we want to try to emulate that. Publishers can also participate, in getting contributions from patrons, and authors can also do the same thing. we have enemies, as we know, like to Lila's point about, lawsuits and bannings and, enemies of universities and academic curricula, like the barrage of attacks that there have been. What I'm trying to do is to make this sort of path from author to publisher to library to patron proof against these kinds of attacks. And it's what I like to call the unbreakable chain. So if we create enough independent means of protecting the digital commons together, and authors and publishers can join in doing that, then patrons will be safe and they'll be able to get the media that they need and want without interference from all kinds of terrible people. Now, we've made some progress on this that I want to show you. This is the beginnings of our marketplace. It's named after Suzanne Brie, the legendary librarian who wanted to sort of catalog all the world. And so we kind of want to do that. And these are real books that are on a real marketplace that are at the Internet Archive, and you can borrow them. These are permanently owned books that we have sold to the Internet Archive that they will own forever. And we're doing it.
We're not seeing your screen, Maria, if you're sharing.
Oh no. I'm so sorry.
We're all picturing what it is you're likely sharing, but
I'm only sharing with myself. That's terrible. Okay, allow. Oh shoot. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Anyway, I'm gonna also drop. I'm also gonna drop links in for you because I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, anyway, we have a marketplace and we've got like a number of books up there now that people can borrow that we have sold to the Internet Archive and are available now at the Open Library. And we also have a program. Here, let me see. At least I can get this much up. Here's our marketplace because of the chat I can get to. Okay, you'll be able to see that. This shows the books that we have, in the marketplace in the Open Library now that we have sold to them, and they're able, anybody can borrow and read. And they're permanently ownable books. Like I was saying, one of them that I'm really excited about is a project that we have with Alice Waters, who has a project called the Edible Schoolyard. You may know her from Chez Panisse and the many sort of cookbooks and restaurant projects that she's had over the years. She has a curriculum called the Edible Schoolyard that's about teaching children about organic farming and cooking and eating healthy food. The project is they'll get a space in a school, they plant stuff and they grow it, and then they eat it at school for lunch. And it's a very cool thing, and it's free. And so this is not a thing that's for sale, but we've created a book version of it that can go in libraries and be distributed freely. So it's not only about commercial pathways for publishers, it's also about being able to preserve stuff that people want to read in the digital commons forever. And so I'm sorry I wasn't able to share. I'm going to type my email address here for anybody who wants to get in touch, and I can share with you when I get the technology sorted out. I'd love to show it to anybody who's interested. Thank you so much.
Maria, thank you so much. And libraries potentially owning digital could be a game changer for us, obviously, and something that I know we're all interested in finding out much more about. So ask your questions in the question or chat area, folks. We're going to move at this point to Anne Fonteneau from Blackstone Publishing. Anne joined Blackstone in 2001, where she was quickly promoted to the head of retail sales, successfully developing new selling avenues, which quadrupled within 5 years. She's continued to manage digital sales for Blackstone, which is the fastest growing portion of that company since 2008, and is now the chief sales officer. Born in France, Anne embraces her heritage by cooking French cuisine for friends. And Anne, I wish I were one of your friends living by.
I didn't mention wine, but it's always part of it. Well, hello, everyone. So nice to be with you. Thank you for that introduction, Michael. Let me see if I can share my screen if I have better luck. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, let me start by telling you a little more about who we are for anyone who's not familiar with Blackstone Publishing. But pretty much, let's see if I go to the first. There we go. That will be better. So from our modest roots, selling audiobooks on cassette, out of a garage back in Southern Oregon in 1980s, Blackstone Publishing has grown into one of the most respected indie publishers in the nation. So in the booming audio market, Blackstone is a major player, and it's pushed into, the print and ebook publishing initiative in 2015 has proven pretty well timed for us. One of our differentiator is that we print everything in-house. It's US made and only for when we have orders. So that gives us a lot of flexibility, and we get to be very quick in fulfilling orders. So we offer a growing catalog of over 18,000 audiobooks that DPLA is currently offering, along with 900 plus print and ebook. We offer many different authors. We have a little bit of everything for everyone, but just to give you a little snippets, we have Gabriel Garcia Marquez, James Clavell, Ayn Rand, Ian Fleming, Karen Slaughter, Don Winslow, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Adrian McKinty, and many more. So pretty much Blackstone is the home to a vibrant and eclectic community of storytellers and story lovers. That's how I like to define us. So Blackstone, let's see if I go to the next. Blackstone is also a one-stop shop for libraries who want physical audiobooks. So we offer all publishers CDs. We have partnership, manufacturer on-demand partnership with Hachette, Harper, Simon & Schuster, Brilliance, Audible on Brilliance, Disney, and many more. So let me talk digital, because that's what we're here today. And our entire catalog, audio and ebook, is available digitally. And Blackstone, for the little story, was one of the first publishers to enter the digital space back in the early 2000s. And we offer digital audiobooks to libraries. So we offer a variety of sales model to kind of provide you with kind of the flexibility and the budget-friendly options that you're looking for. So here you have a little overview of what we do. So we have the one copy, one user. We are still perpetual. I know there's some are the 2-year meter model or have the cap, but we're still under the perpetual. We also participate in the bundles of 40 lands available 10 at a time, if you want to do a community read or other program of that sort. And then we also have a bundle of 5 lands available simultaneously. And then I'll let you in on a little secret just for this group. We are actively working on an unlimited digital subscription program for libraries, which we hope to introduce probably later in the spring and early summer. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're actually pretty excited to give you kind of greater accessibility with that collection. So more to come. And then I just wanted to highlight very briefly a few titles that we have coming up in the next few weeks. The first one being the new Geneva Rose, You Should Have Not Come Here. And she's the best-selling author of The Perfect Marriage. And in her new novel, it's your latest of a cat and mouse thriller. It includes a rustic Airbnb style. Throw in a sexy kind of romantic tension between the narrators, Grace and Calvin, and you have a brilliant unexpected story, full of twists. And Colleen Hoover gave it a great review, and she said, everything I want in a thriller, sexy, shocking, intense, with an ending I never saw coming. Geneva Rose is the queen of twist. So all that to say, that story will make you think twice about your next vacation rental and about being a host. It's really, really fun. The next one is The Wisdom of Maury by Maury Schwartz. Many wish that there was a guide about aging in the mold of Tuesdays with Maury. So that was the classic that was based on the wisdom of the late Maury Schwartz. And now his son Rob has made it so. So Schwartz has masterfully given us the wisdom of Maury, living and aging creatively and joyfully. And this book will change forever how you think about the gift of aging. And that's both books are coming up this April. Moving on to Weapons of Opportunity by Del Brown. This is book 3 in the Nick Flynn series. It's fresh off the success in the New York Times bestselling Countdown to Midnight. And this time Nick Flynn himself is facing a vicious enemy, one determined to destroy the United States. And when a former senior CIA executive goes dark, Flynn and his team step in. What begins into a quiet check-in on the house turns into a firefight against a familiar enemy who is more dangerous than ever. And then finally, the last one, What Remains by Wendy Walker. You may be familiar with Wendy Walker. She's the author of the psychological suspense novel, All Is Not Forgotten, Emma in the Night Before, Don't Look for Me, and American Girl. Her novel have been translated in 23 foreign languages, and she has topped the bestseller list nationally and abroad. And quite a few novels have been options for both television and film. So she's definitely a growing author. And here you have a twisted game of obsessions and secrets. What Remains starts with a bang, kind of literally, and doesn't let you go until the final exquisite resolution. So at the center, you have Elise Sutton. She's a cold case detective with a sense of order in every aspect of her life. And all of this changes one afternoon in a department store. She is forced to make a decision to which to save one life, she has to take another. And while everyone considers Elise to be a hero, she's really having a hard time kind of reconciling what happened that afternoon. And then she connects with Wade Austin, who ends up being the man whose life she saved that afternoon. But Wade isn't really his name, and he's far from who he appears to be. So saving his life was only the catalyst into a deadly game that puts Elise and everyone she loves in jeopardy. So that will be coming out in June. So this is a little subset of some of our upcoming books. And here you have my contact information. If you have any questions about Blackstone titles or wanted to talk digital, always happy to discuss that with you. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much, especially for developing those different models to work with libraries, which will allow us to use our budgets just more wisely. We're going to move on to Jamie Joyce from the Internet Archive. And Jamie is the founder of Society Library, a 501c3 nonprofit which extracts arguments, claims, and evidence from various forms of media in order to construct a database of all the argumentation from every point of view. And as part of the Society's library executive leadership, she has been contracted to work with the archive to develop their Democracy's Library. Jamie, take it away.
Thank you so much. Hearing all these stories has been so heartening. And Maria Bustillos, thank you in particular for being our partner. COSLA, DPLA, ReadersFirst, thanks for having me. So yes, I'm here from the Internet Archive and the new Democracy's Library program. It's a program in which we're working to discover how the Internet Archive's tools and services can be integrated in the broader GovDoc librarianship and archival industry in order to increase access to government documents, research, records, publications, data, you name it. And so to begin this process, for the past couple of months, we've been doing an extensive landscape analysis and conducting many stakeholder interviews. And we've made a lot of discoveries, including we've identified at least 41 different challenges or pain points, or one may pessimistically say problems, with government document access from the artifact level all the way up to the systems level. So an example, probably one of the most obvious examples of there being issues at the artifact level is, of course, broken links. Using the Wayback Machine, which is an Internet Archive tool, we probed the Federal Data Catalog, which is a centralized repository of data sets contributed to by multiple federal agencies that is mandated to be kept online and updated in real time. But with a probe using the Wayback Machine, we looked at 1,000 stratified sampling of different data sets. And we found upon initial probe that 25% of them were actually 404'd. So that's some low-hanging fruit about how the Internet Archive can help support the infrastructure of accessibility, is just backing up those links. But that's not the only problem. We've run into there not being like a really true centralized directory of government websites or agencies, of which there are so many. We found duplicative websites, especially at the municipal level, and the slow transferring of data and documentation, which makes for non-standard access. Of course, there's the issue of social media records not being preserved, and there are millions and millions of really high value government documents that have not yet been digitized and are therefore inaccessible for public review. If you're interested in seeing the rest of these, 40 some pain points, then we will be releasing a report of this landscape analysis and everything that we've learned at the end of this month. And I will put my contact information in the chat. But there's wonderful news that we discovered. When we're discovering all of these issues that need to be solved, there seems to be immense amount of effort in the United States in particular, which is the domain in which I'm overseeing the program, to solve all of these problems from the artifacts to the systems level. Not only has there been recent legislation, we have the Federal CIO Council, but now since the Foundations for the Evidence-Based Policy Act of 2018, we now have a CDO Council. There's the Federal Data Strategy, Digital Preservation Strategy of 2022 to 2026. There seems to be a lot of momentum to solve this problem also from the nonprofit sector, whether we're talking about civic tech or we're talking about watchdog groups. Of course, librarians and archivists, we hear your pain points, not having enough resources, not having the tooling that you need. But there's lots of solutions that we're also organizing for your review if you'd like to check out this report, because we're here as your partners in solving some of these challenges. And of course, the federal government is of interest, and we've been tracking that conversation from GPO about a digital FDLP. It's very exciting. And even though there's been massive challenges, there are sectors that have been solving a lot of these problems, which is, of course, the for-profit sector. And the way we think about it is, if they can do it, so can we. And when it comes to access to these documents, the potential is absolutely massive. When we think about really having complete comprehensive collections of municipal, state, and federal documents, we see a potential for a big data renaissance in political science and public administration, which are two different academic disciplines that have yet to really see their big data renaissance, in our opinion. So there'll be plenty of case studies and use cases that we'll be describing in the report also. But of course, this is a coalition effort. So if there's any way in which you'd want to get involved or to share more with us, please do reach out. I will put my contact information in the chat, but it's also Jamie Joyce at archive.org, which is JAMIEJOYCE. So I think I've been timing myself, and I think I'm at time. So thank you all so much for yours.
Well, thank you so very much, Jamie, and for watching the time. Talk about building a better internet, having one place to find all these documents and know that they'll stay there and will not be changed or withdrawn will be a boon for library researchers. We're going to move on to Amy Michael, who I'm a member of the ALA Intellectual Freedom Roundtable, has become a personal hero. Amy's from the Brooklyn Public Library, and she is the Director of Customer Experience there. She oversees the library's circulating print, media, ebooks, and database collections, as well as the process and policies which govern patron account management and materials. And Amy is part of a team recently named LJ's 2003 Librarians of the Year for their efforts on the Books Unbanned anti-censorship campaign. Amy, take it away.
Thanks so much, Michael. Thank you for inviting me, and so impressed by all my colleagues here with me on this panel. Kudos here to all the work that you do. I've been asked to talk about Brooklyn Public Library's anti-censorship and teen engagement initiative that we launched last year in April around the time of National Library Week. We called it Books Unbanned. And really at the most fundamental level, we wanted to just simply open up our digital collections to help teens access books that might have been getting pulled out of their local communities. So one component of the initiative is just the creation of what were the teen e-card which allows any young person ages 13 to 21 from anywhere in the United States access to our entire digital collections. That's ebooks, audiobooks, a little bit of streaming video, and our entire database collection. The campaign was also orchestrated a bit intentionally to really showcase the stance of public libraries in regards to the issues of intellectual freedom, access, privacy, the freedom to read. So we really hoped that as the campaign started getting a little bit more attention, by extension, then young people and their families and educators would, I guess, remember that they could leverage their rights to access books freely at their own public libraries as well. And then finally, we wanted to create ways for young people to learn about these issues a little bit more, connect with their peers, get support. So we launched a group called the Teen Intellectual Freedom Council, which has been finding its footing and meeting virtually every month for almost a year now. So a little bit the basics and nuts and bolts of how we set everything up. In order to execute just the teen e-card piece, we really needed to create an operating plan that wasn't contingent on public funding. So we did some initial guesswork as to what the books unbanned patron access would cost the library in terms of projected digital collection usage. And then we just earmarked some private funding off the bat in order to get everything up and running. Now, of course, with almost a year of the program under our belts, we've been able to look at the usage and redefine those actual costs to the library. And I'll get to that in a quick second. But I did want to say up front that Brooklyn Public Library actually did not negotiate any special licensing terms with Overdrive or with our database vendors in order to launch this program. We simply were just prepared to pay upfront for any program costs via, of course, private funds. So then the technical setup of the cards was something we did have to sit down and puzzle out a bit, but fortunately we already had a key component in place. We have an online e-card application that assigns a barcode and pin, zip zap, immediately on sign up. So already our regular Brooklyn Public Library patrons were able to use this to apply for immediate access to our digital collections without having to show ID. And then in the regular course of things, we validate eligibility with a browser geolocation feature. So what that means is that only applicants who A, choose to share their location because it's optional, and B, are also then found to be geolocated in New York State are the ones that can successfully apply remotely for a Brooklyn Public Library card. So they must meet those two factors. So then our challenge was to figure out how do we only pass through these young people ages 13 to 21 from anywhere in the United States through the e-card application while otherwise keeping the geolocation restrictions in place for all other non-New York State residents. And the workaround that we came up with involved having the teen initiate the request by contacting the library first. So they can do that via a special email account or via DM to our teen Instagram account. We have a small internal team that then vets each and every request. We reconfirm their email, and then we give a link to that individual. We give that individual a link to the e-card application that is set up to only then work with their particular email address. So in this way, the geolocation restriction only for New York State can be disabled, but it will only be disabled as long as it recognizes that special email key coming through. And then we did spend a lot of time talking internally about the practicalities of issuing library cards this way. It's kind of a different way of doing business. And we decided on a few things. First being that access is our #1 priority, so that we're not going to be asking our teen applicants via this program, coming to us via this program to prove or validate themselves in any way other than submitting the initial ask. So we don't ask teens to show ID to prove that they are who they say they are, and we don't ask them to justify the request, and we're not challenging them as to why they're asking for the card in the first place. Simply the ask is good enough. We do, however, prompt them to share any stories about censorship or challenges they might be experiencing. And there's a few articles coming out that do a really nice job of sharing what we've been seeing and hearing. There's something that just came out in Vice, and look for a Public Libraries Magazine feature article coming out next month. So I'm getting kind of short on time, so I just want to sum up by saying that these patrons receive a 1-year membership to our collection. It's 500,000 ebooks and audiobooks, over 100 databases, same loan rules as the rest of our patrons. And as the cards begin to expire, we will renew them by request. We've issued more than 6,000 e-cards. And the trends that what we're seeing they're checking out is typically teen interest titles pretty much in line with what's trending nationwide. Finally, as promised, a quick note about costs. Just on the collection side, we're estimating approximately $2 a checkout. So we're keeping an eye on that overall checkout data, and we're using that to estimate our fundraising goals for the year. So I'll wrap up there. I'll post my link to the initiative website in the chat, and hope to answer any questions later on. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Amy, and a public service announcement. Brooklyn shouldn't have to do this alone. If there's any libraries out there or organizations that would be interested in partnering or otherwise developing this program, these challenges aren't going to be going away. They're going to ramp up over the next year, and providing access either within your state at a larger level, if you happen to be a library that could reach into areas of the state that are not so likely to be able to carry this content, or even nationally looking for partners or looking for people who would be willing to participate in this. Thank you so much, Amy. And we're going to move over at this point, please, to Georgia. Is Miriam here?
She's not. It'll
No,
just
okay,
be
great. Great. Georgia Westbrook is with the DPLA Curation Corps, and Georgia is the Open Educational Resources Instructional Librarian at Touro College, primarily serving the college libraries in Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. She's a recently graduate of the iSchool at Syracuse University, and she has a lot of experience picking out titles. So Georgia, tell us a little bit about the Curation Corps.
Thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen. Okay. So I'll talk really quickly, but thanks so much for having me on to talk about DPLA's Curation Corps and how we collaborate for access. So who we are. The Curation Corps is a team of 7 librarians and information professionals. We have academic librarians, public librarians, someone who works at a big publishing house, and we've had retired librarians kind of from every field in librarianship and information. And our team has experience in collection development, e-resources, federal GovDocs, OER, cataloging, publishing, graphic design, and lots of other things that we kind of figure out as we go along. And each of these team members curate or contribute 15 to 25 hours per quarter, depending on what they are working on and able to do. And now on to what we do. The flagship project of the Curation Corps is curating books for the Palace Bookshelf, which is our ever-expanding collection of more than 15,000 open access ebooks. And this involves reviewing open access ebooks from around the world. Not all of these are in English, and we have some team members who speak other languages that help us with those. We check and add all the metadata. We research and write summaries for each of the books. So team members really kind of pick what they're interested in and bring that interest to the summary. So we get really great, robust information. We also have some team members who design covers using Canva. And then we recommend titles based on genre or theme. We've done holiday reads, banned books, and in the screenshot of the Palace Bookshelf on the right, you can see that we've highlighted mystery titles this month. That's not all we do. In addition to the Palace Bookshelf curation, team members also work on other special projects depending on interest and expertise. We do some Palace Marketplace collection development. And for those of you that don't know, the Palace Marketplace is the only nonprofit digital content marketplace for libraries, and that includes over 1 million titles. So core members working on this project review those available titles and create bundles for libraries and systems to acquire based on audience format. So that includes ebooks and audiobooks, and license type. And with their collection development expertise, team members are able to tailor these bundles to specific interests or needs and budgets of the libraries. A new project that some of the team members are working on is reviewing and recommending indie self-published titles in the Palace Marketplace. So over 211,000 books from Smashwords were just added, and team members are reviewing them for quality and content before putting together recommendations, and that's ongoing work. And then special projects kind of just come up that we can help with, and some of those include identifying and reviewing potential open collections to add to the bookshelf, creating covers for DPLA publications, and then I also wanted to highlight the work of one Curation Corps member, Cynthia Bauer, who was a former GovDocs librarian. She worked on both versions of DPLA's January 6th on the record book, reviewing the publicly available resources and pulling them together as a package. So kudos to her and the entire team that worked on that. And if this sounds exciting to you, we are currently building the core and seeking more librarians to join. So the application is open, and the link is in the slides, which are available, and then we can also post it in the chat. And if you're interested in joining or just learning more, we're having an open house this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll have some demos of how we do this work, along with more details on kind of the outcomes and what we're able to accomplish. And then we also would encourage you to check out the Palace bookshelf in the Palace app and or on the website. The link here is if you want to access the internet version. And if you want to look at it on your phone, you can download the Palace app and then go to Add Library and you'll find the Palace bookshelf there. And that's all I had, but I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put my email in the chat for everybody. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover in a future forum, email me or Micah May, let us know. I've been asked to start my video. I apologize for my appearance. If you have any ideas about a future topic you'd like us to cover in one of these seminars, please let us know. We appreciate that. But going to open it in about 8 minutes here for some questions. Please put them in the chat or do type them into the question box. And I see that we have one from Heather. Heather, thank you for your question. And it's to Anne. Once the library buys an audiobook, they own that book permanently? Question, they don't just borrow it. Any questions or any response you'd like to give to that, Anne or Mike? I saw you were looking at typing an answer.
Yeah, I thought I typed that. So sorry, Anne, you can go ahead if you want.
Oh, no, go right ahead. Sorry.
I mean, one of the licenses that Blackstone offers and that we encourage all publishers to offer, not all do, but many do, is the perpetual one at a time. So those never stay there. There is also the bundle of 40 that Anne mentioned and a bundle of 5 options. So hopefully that answers the question, Heather.
And thank you so much for offering that option. And ReadersFirst were hearing disturbing rumors about some of the big 5. There's 3 of the big 5 who are currently offering that perpetual option and maybe thinking about doing away with it. And it's just so incredibly valuable for libraries to have that, so we're not constantly relicensing. So thank you so much for that. We had a couple of other questions, but do ask more at this point. From Heather, quite a lengthy comment, but have you considered the role of advocating for rural broadband in your efforts, or do your initiatives include creating or maintaining offline access to digital materials so that users can download digital resources when they have internet and then can still access items at home? Obviously, when we're working in a primary digital realm, the digital divide is a huge issue. Does anybody, any of our panelists care to comment on that? Lila, you had a comment you made, but please go ahead and, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, just so I think it was a question directed at me. So just for everybody, you know, I think when one is doing advocacy work, it is really hard to focus and just say, we are kind of laser focused on solving this problem, because it's really easy to be like, oh, wait, but there's also that huge problem over there. And so the way the movement for the better internet is trying to prioritize things is by having organizations that have core expertise in a particular issue lead on that issue within the movement. And so the Internet Archive, we have worked on broadband issues for sure, but it is like, in particular in San Francisco, like we provide hotspot access for housing projects throughout San Francisco, right? So we do that sort of for our local population, but it is not a core advocacy area for us. But there are many other organizations that are working on that, and we know it's really important. And so I think it's a yes and, right? Like we kind of have to work on all of these things simultaneously, and not, you know, let one thing get in the way of making progress on other things. So sort of a yes and walk and chew gum approach. That's for us anyway.
Well, thank you very much, Lila. And obviously that's an incredibly difficult thing. I know there's a lot of government action, especially with ARPA funds, to try to have that last mile closed to a lot of people. But in many cases, people simply can't afford the broadband access that is offered. So I will say that any effort we can make to help close that is welcome. Obviously, with 92% of Americans owning a cell phone, a smartphone, maybe we can use that to help close that gap. There was a question about what is this marketplace platform called, and we have two answers to that. One is the Digital Public Library of America offers the marketplace for the Palace Marketplace. And I think we've got a link in the chat for that. And then Maria said her marketplace is called, I think this is it Breet, Maria, or is it Bright?
It's Brie.
Brie, okay. Okay, thank you.
Suzanne Brie, the librarian.
And so that's operated by the Brick House Cooperative at the Brick House. So there is answers to that questions. Thank you so much. Time for, well, maybe one more quick one, but then we want to turn it over to John Bracken, who's joined us to close out our session today. And may we keep on, Amy, Michael, and I for just a second to talk about something afterwards, an article about the effort in Brooklyn. Any more questions for us really fast? Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We had at some point about 85 participants today. It was great to have all of you. Do follow up if there's any topics you'd like investigated. And John, are you ready to close us out here?
Well, you gave me the easy job. Thank you all, everyone. Hi, my name is John Bracken. I work at DPLA. Thank you to COSLA and Michael, our august host. Not only does he have the pipes to do the hosting, but he has got the chops. This is a really important and lovely collaboration for DPLA. And thank you all, to all the speakers for being part of this with us. I just want to highlight one of the reasons why DPLA is at the table for this, which is that our mission is really grounded in a notion that in a digital world, if we have less access and not more access to knowledge than we did previously, that's a tragedy. And those of you who have been tracking our collaboration with LYRASIS in the form of the Palace Project, see one manifestation we're trying to make that real in a very pragmatic, practical way. And thank you to Maria and Georgia and everyone from the Curation Core who've been part of that with DPLA for the years. And we're really looking forward at expanding and growing that, starting this week at the Curation Core open house that we're hosting. You know, I think some of the points that were made today remind me that this is not a drill. This isn't an abstract. We're not writing, you know, this isn't a policy research formula. This is something that's immediate and real. We see, you know, explicit attempts to remove, not just attempts, successful attempts to remove books from shelves, to whitewash the American history, by removing discussions of race and gender and identity from discourse and from the education system. And so for me, there's an urgency here as we take this on, which is why I feel so grateful that at DPLA, we're able to have partners like all of you focused on ensuring access and really making steps so that to prevent some of the tragedies that you heard about today and taking advantage of some of the opportunities in front of us. In addition to the Curation Core gathering we're doing soon, I also want to do a plug at, for those of you that come to South by Southwest, at South by Southwest EDU, DPLA, along with Tracy Hall from the American Libraries Association, Kelvin Watson from Las Vegas Library, and now I'm blanking on the fourth person, the activist, a reading activist, a freedom to read activist from Texas, whose name I'm totally blanking on. I can see her face. And she's been,
her name is Carolyn Foote.
Carolyn Foote, of course. Thank you, Kat. She's been at this very seminar before, which is how we met her. We'll be at South by Southwest EDU talking about libraries' role in counteracting the pushback that book bans are part of. And Kat is such a master at this. You may even have the link for that. But so thank you all so much, Michael and COSLA. Thank you guys so much for doing this with us. And what a rich set of discussions you all had today.
Two quick points, sorry to interrupt, but Will, I saw your question and I've sent it to Micah via email to answer. And Amy, thank you so much for your reply to the question about broadband access. And what Amy has said is that Brooklyn has received thousands of stories from teen readers and their families, and many have said how essential the digital access angle has been for them. So yes, there is unfortunately a digital divide, but we're starting to see libraries being extremely innovative about using digital to close other gaps that are being put in the way of especially teen readers. For the variety of reasons, they cannot get access to digital collection of size and scope that they deserve, and BPLS card to subscribe read is a lifesaver. So much work to do everywhere. You're absolutely right about that, Amy, for all of us. Keep up the great work, everyone, and thank you for your interest today.